Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So we are going to start working on this area over here. I have had an exact plan of how I'm going to do this for so long now. It's come to the final moment where I'm about to start doing it and I've slightly changed my mind. So this is our kind of hob area. So we have our oven here, hob, and we have this nice just kind of big bit of open wall just there. Very, very plain, nothing going on. Obviously we need to add a backsplash, right? We're already starting to get like cooking splatters on the wall. I always wanted to tile that area. Yeah, and now I'm kind of like changing my mind what tile I want to go for. So let me talk to you about the whole plan that I have. So I'll chuck in some like Pinterest inspo photos, but I really want to do like a boxed in concealed extractor hood, open shelving either side of that, and I basically want to tile up to the bottom of the shelves. So really nice kind of clean, simple tiling job. I'm going to be doing the tiling myself and I have never ever tiled, so I thought this is probably like the most simple tiling job I could do. So plan wise, obviously you can see I've got a couple of samples back here. So this was the one that I was so sure I was going to go for. So this is actually the tile that we are using in our bathroom, spoiler alert. It's from 𝐵&Q and it's a 30 by 7.5, yeah, 30 centimeter high by 7.5 tile. It's gloss, everything's so matte, but I kind of like the idea of bringing in like a little bit of gloss somewhere, and it has that kind of like irregular kind of like ceramic-y edge to it. Really like that. I'm happy to go ahead with this, but this is the dilemma that I'm having, right? So it's the height of where you do your extractor hood. So where we've marked out here, that is 90 centimeters. So basically I don't want to have irregular cut tiles. So I don't want to do two full-size ones and then a half, or do you see what I mean? So 90 centimeters is obviously like 3 whole tiles. I want to vertically stack them, and I love this like skinny, tall look. So that's what I was planning on doing. However, I think this might be too high. So I am 5'7", so I know I'm not super tall, but I'm not short either. And I just feel like you would see so much of the underneath of the extractor hood. I spoke to my electrician. There is a minimum distance, minimum distance between the hob and the extractor, which is 60 centimeters. So it has to be at least 60 centimeters away, which is super low, but I can't really find any kind of standard recommended size. I think the ideal might be 75 centimeters. So 75 would kind of be about there, which to me kind of makes sense. It's like around here on me. But then the issue is I either have to cut the height on my tiles or find a different tile. So that is what I'm kind of finding at the moment. I only marked this out yesterday with Steve's help. I think that's a good height for the shelves. Let me show you the shelf. So obviously the shelves would need to be trimmed down and there'd be one each side. I think that's a perfect height for the shelf. It's just the extractor hood that I'm kind of like struggling with a little bit. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do. I basically have all of the tiles for our bathroom in the garage. So if I want to go down that route, I've just got loads of them in the garage already. I can just dip in and whatever I use, I'll just replace when we do the bathroom. So basically that is option one. I picked up this one from the porcelain superstore. I got this ages ago. This is the Elements brick in matte. So this is 5 by 20. So I could do 4 tiles high, which would be 80 centimeters above the hob, which I think would be a better height. I mean, that's only 10 centimeters lower though, so is that even worth it? This is like twice the price. They do this in a gloss as well, but it's very smooth edged. Love this tile, but also like visually, see, this is, I overthink everything. I kind of want there to be 3 rows of tiles in my mind. That looks really good. 4. I don't know if I like that as much. I have also just dipped into my tile stash and I've just found this one, which it's the 𝘰𝘮𝑗𝐻𝑒𝑟𝑎 tile, but it's kind of like an off-white, slightly cementy. It's like matte but also glossy. I don't know if you can really make that out. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. I think that's stunning. I think that's the, oh, that's slightly shorter. So this tile is 28 centimeters. So obviously you have to leave spaces in between the tile. Guys, I can't even do that math. 28 times 3. So that would be 84 centimeters high. If I went for something like that. Obviously all of our kitchen's black and I do worry that it's going to be really monochromy, and obviously I will be bringing in a lot more things, like when we have the wood shelves, and we'll have like some stoneware in here, wood, like we've got wood chopping boards, so there is going to be other stuff in here to warm it up. But is it going to look a bit monochromy if I just have like white tile with black like kitchen? I kind of like that. Let me put these ones back up. So I definitely think the one on the right is just too flat. I don't think it really adds anything. It's just matte, white, flat. I think that's a definite no. I do love the one on the left. I love the kind of slightly irregularness. And I feel like because our kitchen is so kind of structured, it's nice to add in something just to break it up a little bit. This one in the middle I'm actually really liking. I might have to get Steve in and get his opinion. I also need to see what the price is. Pick a tile.
I still like the white ones.
You still like the white ones?
The big white ones.
Big white ones.
Yes.
Okay.
That's not helpful for you, is it?
No, like basically, I think this is a good height for the shelf. But what I'm worried about is like when the extractor hood's up, it's like you can just see loads of it.
Right.
So the only way is like when I build the frame to do the extractor hood, so you know I'm going to put the sides on it, right?
Yeah.
So I could build the sides down to here to be flush with the shelves.
Right.
And I could always set the extractor hood up inside it a little bit, but then it's going to be like quite high up.
I don't think it matters about being too high up, does it?
I think it's just more of a visual thing / personal preference. If you can hear all those weird noises, that's my parents' dog. He's just like, yeah, I don't know, he just makes those noises. So yeah, I think like it's not a right or a wrong, it's just personal preference. I was actually...
I don't mind those, I don't like that.
You don't like that one? Oh, I was actually
not for in
leaning
here.
towards
No,
that.
not for in here though. No.
Oh, see, I was getting a little bit worried that it was looking a bit monochromy, and I thought that might add something, because that kind of matches the floor tile in our bathroom as well.
And that's where it should stay. No, I think the white is nicer in here. I'm not fully against this. I do prefer this. So
yeah, I kind of discounted that one because I think it's just flat and like it doesn't really add anything.
Okay.
So that's the one I kind of discounted. So it kind of just sounds like you're leaning towards this one.
Yeah.
Which is the ones that we already have, which is the original plan that I had.
Yeah, that was my favourite anyway. Are you sure you definitely don't want to do it that way?
No, because I think we've got the vertical shiplap on the other side of the kitchen.
Good question, good point.
And I think it just looks a bit more modern having a vertical stack.
Yeah.
Every single inspo photo, and I know we don't have to stick to inspo photos, but every single inspo photo that I've liked, it's been a vertical stack.
Yeah.
So I think if we did it any other way, I would like regret it.
Okay.
Oh,
there we go.
I'm going to keep this one in my tile. I didn't even in shot. I'm going to keep this one in my tile stash because I reckon I'll use this at some point. It's really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Not in this house because we don't need any more tiles now. But okay. That's made things a lot easier for me. So that one that Steve likes, so Steve likes the 30 centimetre high one. which is the cheapest option, and we already have them in the garage. I think when we originally bought them, we actually got like a 25% off discount because 𝐵&Q are running a sale, but I think they're about £30 a square metre. Well, that's made my decision easier because I was actually gonna pop out to Topps Tiles and have a quick look in case I couldn't find anything I liked. So now I don't have to go out and I can just continue with my tiling project this weekend like I'd intended to. First things first, I need to clear everything off of the sides so we can get our project started. Once everything was removed from the sides, so we had a nice blank canvas, I went and grabbed some kind of sheets. I have an old towel and a really old bed sheet, which I use as kind of drop cloths. I'm just going to lay these out to protect the worktops, not only from scratching from the tiles, but obviously when we do eventually start tiling, to make sure nothing drops on the worktops. I then got my laser level and my tape measure out to mark out the midpoint on the wall. So this actually isn't the middle of the whole wall. You'll see that we've got 3 units which are 80 centimeters wide each, and on the left there is actually an infill panel. So this is the center of that middle cabinet, which is the center of the hob and obviously the center of the cooker hood when we do it. I then started laying out all of my tiles. This was just to make extra sure I was happy with the layout before we put them up on the wall. So I've obviously measured up my middle line. I did it so that the join of these 2 tiles was in the middle of that line, but you'll see here we have a tiny little slither of a gap there, and I would have to cut this tile and there'd be a tiny slither of a tile there as well. So what I'm gonna try and do is actually shunt them over. Okay, just rejig them. So like I said, I mean, this isn't perfect, guys. Obviously, this is more just to give me a rough guide rather than putting them all up on the wall and then being like, oh crap, I should have done it differently. So obviously this isn't perfectly centered, but that tile now sits in the middle of that line. And on this side here, we'll see that we're gonna have to like take a little bit off that tile, but it's not gonna be a super weird looking little skinny tile on the end. And then this side, same sort of vibe. So I think that's the best way to go. It's still centered to that line, but it's actually, that's like definitely the best way to do it because even the end tiles are going to be similar-ish sizes. So yeah, I think we're happy with that, aren't we, Rocky? I then had to pop to 𝐵&Q to get a couple more supplies. I definitely got very distracted when I went in here because they had loads of clearance stuff on. They had clearance office chairs, which I'm definitely on the lookout for at the moment. And I also saw this really, really cool lamp, which has like a little table, perfect kind of like space saving solution if you're on the lookout. And it was in clearance for £23. The main thing I came in here for though was tile spacers. So I made sure I actually picked up some of these while I was here. Hello, babies. Hello. Ah, I know. Hello. Right, been gone all of half an hour. Excuse me. Right, let me show you guys what I got. I will grab, bless you. I will grab all of the other supplies that I have as well. Like I said, I've got a tile cutter. My mum got this, it's from Von House. I've got a few of their bits before and they're pretty affordable and pretty good from experience. Never used a tile cutter, so I'll have to let you know how I get on with that. But when I looked, I don't think they're that expensive. Tile adhesive, I went for this one. It's the 𝐬𝐻𝐻, I think that's how you say it. Trade Super Grab. I got that from Tool Station. I'll link everything down below as well as like the tiles that we got and everything. So the one thing that I kind of researched you're meant to look out for is just making sure that your adhesive is suitable for your tiles. So our tiles are ceramic. So whether you've got ceramic, porcelain, or like natural stone, I guess. Anyway, I don't know. So we've got ceramic, and it says that this is suitable for ceramic. Then I actually just grabbed one of these from 𝐵&Q. That's what I need to go and collect. It's just an orbital sander because I'm borrowing my sister's sander, but I definitely want like an orbital one so that we can sand down our windowsills and paint them, which I know you guys will be happy to hear. And then grout. So this is the grout left over from our ensuite. It's by BAL, B-A-L. Got it at Tops Tiles. It was not cheap. And it says that it's new white. And just from experience of putting this in our ensuite, it's not a pure white, which is obviously why we went for it, because our tiles in our ensuite are more of like an off-white kind of concrete-y colour. And I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be a tiny bit too grey against our bright white tiles. So I did have another little look in there. I grabbed this as like a backup in case this one is too grey. This is by the same brand as the adhesive. It's the maypie one, and it just says it's like white. Flexible wall and floor grout in white. So I think because I've already got this, I'll try it out and just see what it looks like. But if I don't like it, then I do have a backup, because I just don't want to be doing last minute dashes to 𝐵&Q all the time. So hopefully I've got everything. The other things I grabbed are a trowelly thing, which I got from Amazon, a special grouty sponge. I think that's everything I got. Anyway, I'm gonna like watch a couple more videos. It's quite warm today, so I might need to change my top, because when I'm under stressful situations I get very sweaty. So oh, I nearly forgot, I got tile spacers. Obviously that was like the main thing I went for. I just started with one of the small bags. I thought there was more in here. There's 500 in here. It was about £4. There was massive tubs of them, but I didn't want to commit to a massive tub if I wasn't like, I just wanted to do this one little wall first, see if I like it, and not commit to like loads of tile spacers that I'm never going to use. So yeah, I went for the 2mm one. It's by Vitrex, which I think is the same brand that all my like, I don't know what they're called, the kind of trowel stuff is as well. Anyway, I'm definitely procrastinating at this point. I'm just gonna get started, I guess. Okay, I wanted to play some of this in real speed for you guys so you could see how slowly I was working to begin with. I definitely picked up speed as I went along, and you can see at the beginning I was using like tiny amounts of adhesive at a time because I was obviously pretty nervous to get started, but you'll be happy to know this project was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So for the first tile, obviously I had made that mark on the wall to mark the center point. I also put a little bit of tape on my first tile and marked the center of the tile so that I could get it lined up with that line. And it's pretty simple. All you do is sort of spread a bit of adhesive onto the wall, and then you use that kind of rigid side of the scraper to scrape these kind of lines onto the adhesive. I used a technique called back buttering. So basically I added some adhesive onto the back of my tiles as well, used the same scraper to make those ridges on the back of the tile in the adhesive, and then place the tile on the wall. I think this helps with it just adhering to the wall a little bit better. But what I kind of found from like research and just kind of getting to grips with this is that the best technique is to kind of press your tile on the wall, make sure you're pressing like each corner, the whole tile, and just give it a tiny little wiggle. That'll just make sure it's kind of like properly set into the adhesive and that the adhesive's kind of gripping to every single part of the tile. As I go along, you can see that I'm adding spacers underneath the tile, so there will be a 2mm gap between the worktop and the bottom of the tile, and then I'm adding spacers obviously in the top kind of corners of the tiles as well. I definitely started off super slow, but as you kind of go on, you definitely do pick up speed as I was getting like more confident with it as well. I would definitely recommend wearing gloves for this and putting down protective cloths, because I found it was quite a messy job, and yeah, I don't think you really want to get this stuff on your hands. Once I had done a whole row, you'll see that I had to cut my final tile because it was a little bit too wide. So all I did was place my tile and make a little mark on the top where I wanted it to be cut. I then placed it on my tile cutter. It has a really handy kind of guide on it. So you'll see that I'm kind of like turning this knob, adjusting the guide and tightening it up. Then all you need to do is score a line along where you want the cut to be made. I went over this a couple of times just to make sure it was scored perfectly. And then all you do is take the lever and kind of put pressure on the tile and it will just snap. Having said this, the first 2 tile cuts that I did, absolutely perfect, no problems. But for some reason, and I have no idea why, the 3rd tile that I wanted to cut, it honestly took me like 5 different tries, maybe even more. I wasted so many tiles because I kept on snapping them and I have no idea why. So I do feel like there is an knack to it, but I can't really feedback on what that is. I made sure I completed the bottom row first, and this is very much like rinse and repeat, guys. I then went to the 2nd row and started in the middle and worked my way out. When you put the adhesive on the wall, I think it says that you've got like a work time of about 30 minutes. So that's why I only put enough adhesive on the wall that I knew I could get through it within a certain amount of time and it wouldn't dry out. So I started in the middle again, worked my way out. And then, yeah, like I said, rinse, repeat, went from the 2nd row to the 3rd row. It's very repetitive, but it is a pretty simple task to do.
Pay attention to the sound, the one that's coming from your mouth. Don't mean to turn it upside down. I really want to hear you out. I can't know how it is to be where you so calmly sit. When I'm further my own, there it is, catching only part of it. To just be, to really see something other than just me. To lean in, look around, open.
When I got to the top row, you'll see I kept that tape line there. So this isn't necessary. It's just kind of for me, I knew where to run the adhesive up to. I had made some really small pencil marks on the wall as well. At the end of the day, if I went above where the tiles were going to go, it wouldn't matter too much. But I just kind of wanted to avoid getting loads of adhesive over the walls. In time, obviously the cooker hood and the shelves would cover that anyway, so it didn't need to be perfect, but I just kind of kept that tape there as a bit of a guide as to where to put the adhesive.
I hit the brakes, throw stones into a quiet lake. What is it you're really saying? I turn the thoughts to little waves, space on either side of every single word I write. I found you in another line. Notice all the time it takes to just be, to really see something other than just me. To lean in, look around, open up to the sound. If I could give you more than half of me.
Guys, we are done. So time now is 20 to 2. I'm trying to work out how long that took me. I reckon by the time I started, it was like 11 o'clock. So that, oh bless you again. Just under 3 hours to do 3 rows. If you had someone here helping you, like it'd be so much quicker, because if someone was back buttering the tiles and then you put them on, it would go so much quicker. But honestly, like most of that time, I swear, was doing the first row. But yeah, plan now. This needs to dry for 12 hours. Some adhesives say 24, but I got the quick drying one. So we won't be able to grout until tomorrow, which is fine. I don't really want to do any more today anyway. I'm just going to clean up basically. It's quite messy. Right, good morning guys. Oh, I'm feeling so groggy today. Obviously the tiles have all stayed up last night, which I know sounds really silly, but that was actually one of my like biggest concerns, is that they just wouldn't stick to the wall. I don't know why. I just had this weird irrational fear about them falling down. Hair's doing weird stuff today. I'm not quite with it yet, but I just want to get my head around the whole grouting process. I've watched another couple of videos, so I'm going to show you what I got to do the job. So obviously we already had the discussion about grout. So I'm going to go in with this one, the 𝘬𝘢 one, which like I said is the one that we used in our ensuite, but it's not a pure brilliant white, which was my original intention. But having seen the kind of darker adhesive kind of come through the tiles a little bit, I actually think it's kind of nice to have maybe a little colour difference. So I'm going to try this out first. I mean, we have a whole bag open anyway. Next thing I got is a grout float. I actually bought one of these off of Amazon, but I didn't realise when I opened the tile cutter box, my mum had put one in there for me. So I'm going to return the one that I've got and use, this is the one that my mum had, which is like literally never used. So yeah, I'm going to use that to the grout on. Got a special sponge to wipe the excess off. I'm hoping that yesterday's job was like the hard bit and then today's like the easier bit. But I never like to get carried away and kind of get too excited because stuff always takes longer than I think it's going to. So I'm going to finish my coffee, make sure I'm fully awake and actually with it before I start this, and yeah, we'll just get cracking. Okay, so I am mixing my grout at a 5:1 ratio, so 5 parts of the powder grout mix with 1 part water. What you want to do is actually add your water to the bowl or your bucket first. I'm using a bowl because I didn't have a bucket. And then you want to add your powder bit by bit, stirring as you're adding it. I made the massive mistake of adding the water to the powder and it did not mix, and I had to actually just chuck the whole mix. So yeah, add the powder to the water a little bit at a time, mix it up, make sure you're getting rid of any lumps, bumps, all of that. It should be a nice kind of smooth consistency. I ended up having to make 2 batches of this, and the first batch was more of a kind of pancake batter consistency, and I actually found that it was a little bit too runny, whereas my second mix, which I made the same sort of way, so I don't know why it was different, but it was definitely more of a kind of paste, which was a lot easier to kind of work with. It wasn't as runny and it was easier to push into the grout lines. So basically all I did was grab a bit of the grout on my grout float, and I just tried to push it into the cracks as much as possible. I tried to go in loads of different directions, and basically just, you want to just push in as much product as possible is what I kind of found. So I was trying to do it at different kind of diagonals and just work it in loads of different ways and make sure there's as much in there as possible. I worked in kind of smaller sections, so I'd work pushing in the grout into one section and then I would go over it with a slightly damp sponge and just remove the excess. Very similar to putting the tiles on the wall. It's very much just like rinse and repeat. Just keep on going with this process and very much trust the process as well, because when you're putting the grout on, it looks like a disaster zone, but once you kind of wipe it away, it definitely kind of comes together. One thing that I would definitely recommend actually is when I did the grouting, I ran masking tape along the edges and along the top of the worktop, just to make sure that when I was grouting right up to the edges that I wasn't getting any on the walls or the worktop. This is a stage that I wish that I had done when I was tiling the walls, just to protect the surfaces from the adhesive. So if you're doing a project like this, I would definitely recommend, because it saves you a lot of time when you're cleaning up. I was actually pleasantly surprised by how long this took me. So I think it took me about an hour to actually just put all the grout on, maybe a little bit longer to kind of make the mix as well, but it was super, super quick. It's a really, really easy job, and honestly, I feel like anyone could do this. Same as when I put the tiles on the wall, I started off really slow, but then once I got the hang of it, I kind of picked up speed and it just seemed a lot easier. Like I said, I wiped off the kind of excess grout with a damp sponge, but what I actually did is leave it to dry. Then once it was dry, I went over it with a cloth again because it gets something called grout haze, which is just when it kind of dries and you just have that dusty kind of finish on the tiles. So I made sure I wiped all of that off, and once it was all done, I added some silicone around the edges. So where the tiles met the wall and the cabinet on either side, and also where the tiles met the worktop as well, I used my technique of adding a couple of strips of masking tape to make sure I got a clean line. I ran my silicone down the edge and just kind of wiped off the excess with a paper towel. For this, I used a specific kitchen and bathroom silicone. Right guys, project Backsplash is complete. Honestly, I am really happy with how this turned out, and genuinely I feel like this is, although quite a daunting project, really, really easy. If you've ever thought about doing a tiling project, a Backsplash is probably the easiest one you can start with, but definitely give it a go because I was pleasantly surprised by how much easier it was than what I was like bigging up in my own mind. Like I said before, I will link down below all the items I use, the tiles, everything, but I am so happy with how this turned out. I'm glad we went for the gloss tiles because I definitely feel like it just adds a little something. Really happy with the grout colour that we went for as well. And I can't remember if I mentioned, but Steve was actually away this weekend, so he came back last night, and it was a nice little surprise for him to kind of see this all together, and he absolutely loves it as well. So time to crack on with the rest of the project now, which will be in a separate video. So make sure you are subscribed because we will be building out the extractor hood. My extractor's coming tomorrow, so we can make a start on that. I'm gonna do open shelving either side. So that will again transform this space even more. So big projects happening. Make sure you guys are subscribed. If you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up because it really supports my channel, and I will catch you guys in the next one.